Well, good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us this evening for the Class of 2024 Sophomore College Kickoff event. We appreciate you having carved out the time to spend this hour with us. We, of course, wish it was in person, but look forward to being with you and hope that you'll find it an informative, helpful, maybe even a little bit of an exciting program. With my parent hat on, I look forward to sharing this experience with you for sure. And for those of you I've not had the opportunity to meet, my name is Jennifer Scott, and I have the honor of serving as Norfolk Academy's Director of College Counseling with a tremendous team of colleagues who you'll have the chance to hear from tonight. We work collaboratively over the course of this experience with every family and on behalf of students, and are really exceedingly grateful to do the important work that we are about at an institution that is so appropriately invested in this stage of young adulthood and in the lives of students and families as they navigate this next step in their lives together. There is a freshness and a sense of renewal for us every year as we approach this program and begin our work with sophomores and their families. It's a time that will enrich and inspire and change you, certainly challenge you along the way in different ways, both individually and as a family. And with all of the ups and downs and learning experiences that are out in front of us, we do look forward to beginning our work with each of you. Just a few housekeeping details before we get too far along. We are recording this evening's presentation, so we will share a link to that file with you along with our PowerPoint slides from tonight. If that does prompt any additional questions that you have that may be more personal for you and your family, please don't hesitate to reach out to ask those questions. We hope this will be the genesis of a long relationship with you and partnership with you, and are eager to answer those questions whenever they arise. If we do have any technical difficulties at any point in time, we appreciate your patience and we'll work to resolve those just as swiftly as we can. Now, just a few thoughts about today. Today, we will be all about helping you step off on the right foot as you begin to discuss the college process with your family, and as you begin to consider the type of college experience that you'd like for yourself or parents, the type of experience that you would love your child to have the opportunity to pursue. Although there are many parts of the college search phase within the admission process, which are more timely pursued as juniors, regular conversations about the things that are central to who you are, the ideas and the activities and involvements that you value and that you pour energy into, the characteristics of your learning style that might inform the kind of academic community that you seek in college. All of those are important topics to begin thinking about now. Ultimately, the more you know about yourself, and the better you will feel as you begin to navigate the nuts and bolts of preparing a college list, of participating in virtual and campus visit opportunities, and really on focusing on the next stage of the process. Tonight, we will introduce many of the resources that are at your disposal throughout this process, as well as how to approach the college search phase in a healthy, dynamic way and make use of all the resources available to you, what to know if you are a prospective intercollegiate athlete and how to navigate these next steps, and how admission outcomes, in particular admission outcomes at selective institutions, are actually determined. We will, again, by no means answer all of your questions, and in fact, you may leave the webinar with additional questions you had not anticipated. We would consider that a victory. So please reach out early and often if you do find that you have additional needs that we can support. Now, just a little bit more about us and sort of the role that we hope to play over the course of this process for you and your family. Many of you have likely heard me talk about our role really as a resource and a guide for families. We hope to distill the fire hose of information, the mountain of information that exists out there about the college admission experience, so that you have sort of healthy, bite-sized pieces of information that can be used at the right time and only if they're appropriate for you. Not every piece of information that's out there is appropriate for every student. Not all of it is true. And we want to provide that guidance and be a resource for, again, a healthy approach to this process. We're also here to be sort of the scaffolding or the net to help ensure that things don't fall through the cracks, and really to challenge you students to take on this process as the captain of your team, if you will, with all of the rights and responsibilities that implies. We want to help you to think critically about your goals and to understand the strategic parts of this process, and really to help you remain open to a variety of paths as we walk. We also serve as an advocate, both institutionally for Norfolk Academy and for you individually as an applicant to a particular college. We'll talk more about the roles of, or the parts of that role over the course of our time together. And then lastly, and perhaps most importantly, this role as a storyteller, or in fact, kind of a storytelling guide, if you will. Every student goes through a process of really beginning to know him or herself well over the course of this journey. And the applicants who find that they are happiest, those who are most successful in this process, have really worked to develop a personal narrative that they can articulate clearly to a college in the form of course, their application. And that serves to help an admission office understand the puzzle piece that you might be in the puzzle that they are working to put together, that is the freshman class. They want to understand what kind of impact you might have on their campus, what kinds of conversations you might start, what kinds of roles you might have within their community. So we look forward to helping you understand your own personal story, your own personal narrative, and then subsequently to tell that story well. To state the obvious, and maybe to call out the elephant in the room, we have been living through a time of great uncertainty over the course of the last couple of years, both nationally and internationally, certainly locally as well. And the pandemic has touched all parts of our personal and familial lives, to say nothing of the ways in which educational organizations have been affected. The college admission experience is no exception to all of that. For college-going students, and really by extension, the college experience itself have been affected in a whole host of ways, some of which have been positive, some of which have been challenging. But hear very clearly from us tonight that the most important message we want to share about the ways in which the pandemic has touched the admission process is that we are all in this together. Admission officers, college counselors, students, parents, teachers, et cetera, are all navigating these changes and sort of some of the evolution of our process at the same time, are being called to be flexible, to be nimble in mindset, to be responsive, adaptive to change. We have been just exceptionally pleased with the ways in which our students have demonstrated resilience over the course of the last couple of years. We expect that will hold true for you all as well. And we will absolutely keep you up to date as we understand changes to be continuing over the course of the year ahead. A few bright spots just to share with you related to the ways in which the pandemic has touched the admission process. We have been delighted to see a very robust number of the four-year institutions across the nation adopt adopt test optional or test flexible policies in the last couple of years. That creates lots of options, lots of opportunity for students. And in the category of sort of necessity being the mother of invention, when the pandemic hit, and colleges, for the most part, needed to close their doors to prospective families, they immediately responded by strengthening their virtual presence and offering a whole host of virtual visit and exploration opportunities that had not existed heretofore. So we've been thrilled to see that, and it has added a dimension to the search process that has been a wonderful resource preserver in terms of helping students preserve time, preserve money, those kinds of things, and just a good initial step as students explore colleges. So that is just by way of introduction, a few thoughts to share with you as we begin our work together. I'm going to hand it over now to Mr. Harlan, who will share with you a bit more about how to begin your college search.
Good evening, everybody. Very much appreciate you joining us this evening. As Mrs. Scott mentioned, my name is Mr. Harlan, and I have the pleasure of speaking with you all about some various components of what your college search may look like. And as my colleagues and students know about me, I have a deep love of and appreciation for sports. So it's not all that surprising that I've chosen to start my portion of tonight's presentation with a sports reference. Over the course of our work together over these next 2 years, you'll come to learn that I'm an alumnus of the University of Michigan, and that I have an arguably unhealthy knowledge of all things Michigan athletics. But for tonight, I've chosen to reference another college football program. Nick Saban's tenure at Alabama has been simply astounding. His record while coaching at Alabama is 178 wins to only 25 losses, and features 6 national championships. But you would not know this if you were speaking to coaches or players who are also part of the Alabama program. Coach Saban hardly ever utters the word championship in practices or even in team meetings. Instead, he preaches on a daily basis that everyone who is a part of Alabama follows the process. He is quoted as saying, "Don't even think about the national championship. Think about what you need to do in this drill, on this play, in this moment. That's the process. Let's think about what we can do today, the task at hand." In his book, "The Obstacle is the Way," Ryan Holiday elaborates on this exact point. The road to winning 6 championships is just that, a road, and you travel along a road in steps. Excellence in anything is a matter of steps, excelling at this one, then that one, and then that one after that. Saban's process is exclusively this: existing in the present, taking it one step at a time, and not getting distracted by anything else, not the other team, not the scoreboard or the crowd. And when you follow this process, staying in the moment, working hard, not settling for anything less than your very best, and possessing dogged determination and resilience, your potential is limitless, as Saban's football program has demonstrated time and time again. The analogies to the college process are clear. The journey of getting accepted to college is a long one that admittedly has several components. If any counselor were to simply tell you to go get accepted to your top choice schools, that wouldn't be very helpful. You naturally have follow-up questions like how, what steps should I take, what resources are even available to me, who can I reach out to for support, what advice do you have for me to help me achieve happiness and success in this process? All of these would be fantastic follow-up questions and illustrate the fact that, like any long-term process, there are many things that we can be doing as a team over the coming months in order to achieve our collective goals. So for the next few slides, I'm going to focus on the steps of our college counseling process here at Norfolk Academy. And while we're going through this, remember, this is a process, one that will take one step at a time. And when we trust this process, great things await. Mrs. Scott, can you please change the slide? Thanks. As you admire this Google image stock photo, pay close attention to the bolded text above. Do your best every day in your classes. This is the best advice that any college counselor can give you at this point in your academic career. If any college representative were sitting right here next to me, and you were to ask them what the most important component of their application review process is, they would, to a person, respond with your four-year high school academic record. As such, you want to be sure that for every day left in this semester, as well as every day of both your junior and senior year, you are giving your absolute best effort in all of your classes. There is no better feeling than submitting your eventual college applications knowing that you gave those applications your absolute all. Colleges absolutely take note of any trends that may exist within your overall transcript. Say you experienced an adjustment period when making the jump to upper school, and as a result, your grades were a bit lower than expected. Don't get discouraged by this, but view it as an opportunity for growth. If you continue to believe in yourself and apply yourself in the classroom moving forward, colleges can and will gravitate towards applicants who demonstrate improvement. The final point I'll make here is that after having worked within a few different educational settings, I can tell you that the depth of relationships that exist between students and faculty here at Norfolk Academy is truly second to none. Lean into this and seek out the help that your teachers are so genuinely eager to provide you, especially during these ongoing unique times. Embrace the challenges presented to you, and view your mentors here as your partners moving forward in this process. By doing so, you can continue to reach your full academic potential while also developing organizational skills that will serve you well in college. These same teachers could then serve as valuable resources for you when applying to colleges, both as sources of emotional support and as advocates who write thoughtful and detailed letters of recommendation on your behalf. Mrs. Scott, please change the slide. In addition to excelling within the classroom, it is important to pursue your interests outside of the classroom as well. There is no set activity or activities that colleges are looking for within an application. I purposefully included an eclectic mix of activities on this slide. Whether you're involved with athletics, theater, music, community service, robotics, even responsibilities at home, like taking care of siblings or a grandparent. Colleges want to hear about all such involvements because it helps them learn more about the person you are, not just what type of student you are. If you have not already done so, start to think about those involvements in areas that are most important to you, and think about the ways you might start to pursue those interests moving forward. Sustained commitment to an activity is something that colleges take note of, as is leadership within those activities. But remember that you do not in any way need a title in order to lead. Brainstorm what projects or initiatives you might want to pursue as part of a student organization, or how you could help to build an inclusive and healthy culture within your sports teams. All such examples demonstrate your leadership and selflessness, and are items that we can work together on further elaborating upon as part of your eventual applications. And lastly, just know that it truly is never too late to follow a new interest. Students start new involvements all the time during their sophomore, junior, and even their senior years. These newer involvements, when combined with those activities that you've been pursuing for a longer period of time, help to demonstrate how well-rounded you are. Mrs. Scott, please change the slide. Thank you. Another important step is doing research, and a great way to start this is by taking advantage of online resources. Because of the current pandemic landscape, colleges are investing more and more of their resources in online programming. Never before has there been such extensive and well-crafted online college resources. You can see some of these listed on this slide. Some initial types of questions that you might consider asking yourself as you do your research are, what are my favorite academic subjects? And how might these inform what majors I may want to pursue in college? Where am I open to attending? Exclusively in Virginia, where there are multiple tremendous public institutions, or also out of state? And if so, where out of state? What about size of school? Schools can range in size from 1,000 undergraduate students to over 30,000 undergraduate students. These listed online resources, in addition to other resources like college websites, can help you answer these questions. Those students who experience the most happiness and success in this process are those that approach it with an open mind, both on the front end, when they are researching and learning about schools, and on the back end, when considering schools that they may want to ultimately attend. There is no such thing as a perfect college, yet there are many colleges that could potentially be a great fit for you. By researching and using our office as a resource, we can work together to determine where those great fits for you might be. Mrs. Scott, please change the slide. As previously mentioned, the college visit landscape has changed quite a bit during the ongoing COVID pandemic. And as a quick aside, given that each of Mrs. Scott, Mrs. Livingston, and I all have ties to William and Mary, you'll excuse the not so subtle subliminal messaging taking place both on this slide with the Wren building on William and Mary's campus in Williamsburg and on the wall literally directly behind me. But despite the limitations that COVID continues to impose on us, there are still multiple ways to meaningfully, productively, and thoughtfully interact with schools really across the country. Over 100 college representatives from across the country visit Norfolk Academy each year. And whether these visits take place virtually or they're able to be held in person, you're welcome to attend these visits during the falls of both your junior and senior year. Virtual college tours, sessions, and/or panels are available for almost every school out there. Many schools are currently offering in-person official visits. While some are not, if your family feels comfortable doing so, you are welcome to travel to these campuses and see them in person for yourself. And whether virtually interacting with a college representative through a visit here at Norfolk Academy, participating in a virtual tour for a college of your choice, or safely visiting a campus in person, all of these efforts can help you visualize and feel what it's like to be a member of a given campus community and to start determining whether or not you might want to call that school home. Mrs. Scott, please change the slide. I'll leave you all with one final bit of advice, and that's you've got this. Going forward, you may experience a whole spectrum of different emotions, from uncertainty and stress to excitement and pure unadulterated joy. All of these emotions are completely natural. Remember that this is a process. It's our role as your college counselors to help you navigate the various steps of this process so that you feel empowered and supported, and so that the road ahead is both rewarding and fulfilling. Thank you all very much again for your time. It's now my pleasure to introduce Coach Steve Moninger, who is going to speak with you all about the college process for student athletes.
Hello and good evening. As you picture yourself on a college campus in the future, we hope that all of you will look to stay physically active. Whether it is participating in the campus's club sports, intramural activities, or outdoor adventures, we hope that everyone takes advantage of the fitness opportunities on your future campus. My specific role in the college counseling office is to assist those of you who are exploring the opportunities of playing Division I, Division II, or Division III NCAA sponsored sport. In order to pursue this endeavor, you will soon find yourself immersed in the athletic recruiting process. And I'm excited to provide you resources, offer counsel, and help you navigate this process as you work to reach your goal of being a college athlete. Over the past 3 years, we have had 46 of our Norfolk Academy student athletes go through the recruiting process and commit to a college or university to play their favorite sport. So far this year, we've had 9 of our current seniors commit to playing a sport in college. The recruiting process can be complex and sometimes confusing. So as a current sophomore, there are 3 simple early steps that I want you to consider. Next slide, please. Thank you. First, take care of the task at hand. You will only be recruited by college coaches if you are doing everything in your power to be the best student and the best athlete while at Norfolk Academy. So study hard, train hard, compete, demonstrate toughness and grit, be a great teammate, and be an inspirational leader for your team. Additionally, it's okay to have a favorite sport, but do not specialize in just one sport. Most college coaches want to recruit multi-sport athletes. Second, Now is the time to consider how important playing your sport in college is to you. So do some soul searching and ask yourself, do I want athletics to be a major part of my college experience? Am I ready for such a commitment? Are my parents supportive of this? Have I talked to my Norfolk Academy coach about the prospects of playing in college? Have I thought about the differences between Division I and Division III programs? It's really important to note that a Division I experience may feel like an intense year-round commitment, while a Division III experience will be very intense, but will also allow for more balance between academic, athletic, and social experiences. All in all, now's the time to get a sense of how athletics can influence your college search. Next slide, please. Thank you. Lastly, please understand that college coaches will not come to you. You must be proactive in this process. You are ultimately responsible for your promotion to college coaches. As a sophomore, you're encouraged to reach out to college coaches by sending an introductory email. Also, go to college websites and fill out their recruiting questionnaires so that they have your contact information. In order to get a good amount of exposure, you may want to start looking at what types of summer camps, clinics, and showcases are available for you to get seen by college coaches. Next slide, please. We have many resources available to you. If you're considering playing a sport in college, please come and meet with me. Email me or call me and we'll set up a time to talk. I can also provide you with our guide to the potential college student athlete that includes basic eligibility guidelines, recruiting timelines, examples of letters that you can send to college coaches, and much, much more. Most importantly, on Monday, February 28th, at 6:30 p.m., we'll host a forum on the athletic recruiting process. This forum is for students and also for parents. We will have 3 guest college coaches who are very accomplished in their field. Coach Elliott from Virginia Wesleyan softball, Coach Holder from ODU field hockey, and Coach Crowley from CNU football will all be there. Our guest coaches will give you critical information and different perspectives about the college recruiting process. This will be an informative program for you, and we strongly recommend that you and your parents attend. So thank you for your time tonight. And now I'd like to turn it over to Wendy Livingston, who will talk about the college selection process. Thank you.
Thank you, Coach Moniger. Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for spending your time with us this evening. Much of what we've discussed today and what we will continue to discuss over the course of the next several years are about your steps in this journey. It is your search, your application, and ultimately your enrollment decision. But for a small slice of time toward the end of this process, you will let go and invest your application in the hands of admission officers who make a decision about your candidacy. And it's the how of those decision-making processes that I will be discussing for the next few minutes. I will not go into great detail today about the whys and wherefores and nuances of each of these processes. There will be time for that later on. But what we do want to provide is an introduction, a 30,000-foot view, if you will, so that you can begin to understand all of the components of this process. Next slide, please, Mrs. Scott. Thank you. Until just a few years before I left William & Mary, where I served as an admission officer, application files literally consisted of every piece of paper associated with a student's application. From school forms to essays, everything was printed and packed neatly into a color-coded file folder. When I would bring my tremendously stuffed and admittedly heavy file bag home with me to continue reading, my husband would look at me, look at the bag, and joke that I should simply throw the files down the stairs and make my choices based on which ones landed near the top. The satirical genius at the Harvard Lampoon captured a similar yet slightly different theory on how admission decisions are made. And if you can't read the slide, the caption says, once you finished your interview, your application goes through the gears of the meritocratic machine that, excuse me, that is the admission committee. We at the Harvard Lampoon have gotten our dirty little hands on a copy of what goes on inside the clandestine belly of the admission beast. Well, I can promise you that trained monkeys are not making admission decisions. Mrs. Scott, Mr. Harlan, and I in our previous professional roles are living proof of that. But we very much recognize that there is a lack of transparency about how admission decisions are made. and that these feelings of being in the dark can lead to anxiety and stress. We are here to help you make sense of the information you receive and to decipher admission speak. There is no single consistent answer to any question about anything related to college applications or an admission office's review process. Who actually reads your essay? How do decisions get made? Does your activities list really matter? Do you need to demonstrate interest? Will an admission office really consider you if you happen to be a poor test taker or you apply test optional? Is there an equation that can be followed that will get you closer to receiving an offer of admission? These are all very good questions. Next slide, please, Mrs. Scott. The answer to most of them lie within having a clear appreciation for and understanding of the fact that at its heart, college admission is an art and not a science. There is no exact equation for how students are differentiated into the categories of admit, waitlist, defer, and deny. Every institution's admission process is impacted by the university's mission, its size, its status as public or private, whether or not it is religiously affiliated, the individual university's priorities, its applicant pool, and many other factors. Therefore, there are a large number of paradigms which colleges and universities employ, which in turn impact how your credentials are used. It's the reason there is great value in understanding the specific procedures at the schools where you ultimately intend to apply. Some larger institutions, at least historically, simply made use of standardized test scores and GPA. The relative strength or weakness of those two sets of numbers essentially determined whether or not you were admitted. Leaning into the positive, as Mrs. Scott alluded to earlier, these processes are evolving as a result of the pandemic and the disruptions it's caused both to students' ability to complete their classwork and to sit for standardized testing. The relative weight of standardized test results are diminishing, and while other factors over which you have more control are gaining traction. How much those processes will evolve and whether the de-emphasis on standardized testing we are seeing right now will remain in place in perpetuity remains an open question which we are continuing to monitor. Other universities may offer significant deference to students who apply early decision or who may be able to claim legacy status. Others still, and many of the nation's most selective schools, take a holistic approach, choosing to take the time to read each and every application cover to cover, often multiple times, before rendering a decision. These are the schools who have many, many more applicants who meet or exceed their expectations based solely on objective criteria than they could ever possibly admit. Therefore, they make use of multiple readers, committee conversations, and the contextual and textured information gleaned from essays, letters of recommendation, interviews, and other components of the application to differentiate students from each other. Not surprisingly, these processes too are evolving. And while they always took into account a wide variety of factors, virtually every aspect of a student's high school life has changed as a result of the pandemic. Colleges are aware of that. They understand that, and they are adjusting their review processes accordingly. As I mentioned previously, we are continuing to monitor these changes, and in the coming years, we'll no doubt have a clearer picture of whether these changes will be permanent or whether eventually processes revert back to something similar to what they were pre-COVID. Next slide, please. You are most certainly going to college to acquire an education, but that education does not consist solely of organic chemistry formulas and comparative politics data. You are learning how to acquire and interpret knowledge. You are learning how to communicate. You are learning to be an engaged citizen, and most importantly, you are learning about the world around you and your place in it. College is a time to take risks, to reflect on who you are and who you are becoming, to discern what you value, and most importantly, to grow. You will be able to do this, in essence, to thrive at a campus where you feel a sense of belonging. You will come to understand teamwork, leadership, and your role in a community. And yes, some of this can be learned within the four walls of a classroom, but much of it will be learned in the non-structured environments that permeate college campuses. And while we recognize that right now, college looks and feels a little bit different, it is our sincere hope that some of those traditional college experiences will not only be reestablished, but will be reborn with lessons learned from the challenges and tumult of the past few years. Whether it's a 3 a.m. discussion about foreign policy over pizza or a good group laugh after a round of human bowling in the attic of your residence hall, that last example may or may not be from personal experience, you will grow and evolve in ways you cannot even imagine today, thanks to a community of students, faculty, and staff who you haven't even yet met. And it's the admission office's job to cull together that group of students who will challenge you, who will mold you, and who will inform your life in a myriad of different ways. They are not looking for automaton students who can regurgitate the periodic table and who boast perfect GPAs and standardized test scores, but who lack passion and personal voice. They are instead looking for diverse, passionate, interested, interesting, engaged, and yes, flawed individuals who will be the lifeblood of their campus. Admission officers are looking for students who will contribute much to their communities and to whom their communities can contribute much. That is what FIT is all about. Next slide, please. If you were to transport yourself into the mind of an admission representative while he or she was reviewing applications for a day, you might hear an inner monologue that goes something like this. Is this student adequately prepared to be successful academically on our campus? Does he have a mature writing voice? Is she a catalyst for discussion in the classroom? How did they make a meaningful impact in their educational or greater community, or both? Does he have spunk, zest, or an interesting attitude that would add a new dimension to campus life? Would they be an interesting roommate, lab partner, or classmate? Is she open-minded? Does he want to be here? Will he come if admitted? Think about the answers to these and other questions while you are beginning your search. Beyond the stellar academic credentials you will no doubt work to put forth, it is this side of your application which will truly help make you stand out when the time comes. Next slide, please. So the first piece of advice I want to offer is to relax and take a deep breath. Don't get caught up in the hype of US News rankings and bumper stickers. Get caught up in the search and in the journey. Enjoy this process of self-discovery and finding possible new homes where you feel that sense of fit. You can be successful in this process and you can enjoy it. It will be challenging at times, but you will grow from that challenge and you will know yourself better. Plan ahead. We often tell students to think of this process as akin to adding another class to their schedule. A small amount of attention and work at regular intervals will save you from procrastinating and from feeling overwhelmed. Prepare a college search timeline to ensure that you are meeting deadlines. As was discussed or alluded to a little bit earlier, pursue the appropriate amount of academic rigor. Colleges are eager to see that you are stretching yourself in the classroom, but not to the point of diminishing returns. We counsel students to take the most challenging set of courses in which they can be successful. We and all of your teachers look forward to partnering with you as you select a program of study that is representative of your areas of interest, disciplines you enjoy, your academic strengths, and graduation requirements. As Mr. Harlan said, get involved and remain so about those activities, clubs, organizations, and endeavors about which you are passionate. With extracurricular activities, it is always about quality, not necessarily quantity. Students read and write often. This will help later during the essay writing process. And a well-crafted, thoughtful essay can have an incredible impact on the recommendation of a reader. And finally, be introspective. Spend time getting to know yourself. This will help your search for the, this will help you in your search for the college which will be a good fit and help you extend a compelling set of credentials which will resonate with admission officers. Each one of those pieces of paper in that tightly packed color-coded file folder I referred to earlier is a data point. One part of your story. The better you know your story, the more equipped you will be to articulate it when the time comes, and the more you will offer admission officers the chance to get to know you and to see you as a future part of their campus community. Thank you again for joining us this evening, and I will turn things over to Mrs. Scott.
Great. Thank you so much, Ms. Livingston and Mr. Harlan and Coach Moniger for all of those incredibly thoughtful and helpful bits of counsel for sure. So in addition to the many resources that have been referenced this evening, we want to encourage you to recognize the value of and the intersections between technology, communication, programming, and relationship building over the course of this process. Connect with us, with your teachers, with admission officers, parents, friends, alumni of the institution that you are exploring. Engage in this process with purpose, with intention, recognizing that all of the information that you acquire, people you meet, social media feeds you follow, maturity you demonstrate, and conversations you participate in have the opportunity to affect in a positive way your search and the interpretation of your application credentials later on. Taking the initiative to ask questions, introduce yourself, communicate openly, extend gratitude, and to simply just engage with all of the people around you will always serve you well. A primary tool that we will make use of over the course of your college admission journey is the College and Career Planning and Solution platform, SCORE. SCORE, interestingly, is a Gaelic verb, which means to exit or retire or to transition from one phase to another. And of course, is an apt word to describe the transitional experience of applying to college and navigating your way to a new educational home. It's a college readiness tool for high school students that helps connect academic achievement to post-secondary goals. Each student and his or her parents, will have a SCORE profile, which will be used for tasks like managing a prospective college list, exploring colleges and universities, and submitting supporting credentials to the admission offices where you apply. You will gain access to that profile and the platform itself as a junior. And if you have any questions about its use prior to that time, don't hesitate to reach out. More immediately, we are excited to introduce to you the U-Science platform, which was created to help students observe the intersections between their aptitudes, their interests, and their personalities via participation in brain game-like assessments that are actually quite a lot of fun. And further, to help students envision themselves in the world of work. Participation in U-Science is completely optional for students, but it's one more way to go about the work of understanding your story, your personal narrative, as you put together the pieces of your puzzle. So how does U-Science work? Tomorrow, you will receive an email from me, which outlines how to participate in U-Science, including directions for how to activate your profile. You will subsequently receive an email from U-Science directly, which includes a personalized activation code, and that will allow you to get started. The core assessments are broken into 11 short 8 to 10 minute exercises that relate to a variety of topics like idea generation, numerical reasoning, language usage, and creativity. You may stop and start after any exercise, but you may not take a break in the middle once an exercise has begun. Once you have completed the assessment, you'll receive a comprehensive strengths profile, which will offer you insights into types of work that might interest you, words and phrases that aptly describe students with strengths like yours, observations about how you might contribute effectively to teams. We look forward to incorporating the results of your U-Science assessment into our work with you over the course of the college admission journey. Now I'm going to share a short video about U-Science to introduce the platform to you further.
They trap you and they use you before you even know. blind and you're far too kind. Don't ever let it show. I wish that I knew what I know now. When I was younger, I wish that I knew what I know now. When I was stronger, the can such a pretty show to steal your heart away. The backstage back on earth again. The dressing rooms are great. They come on strong and it ain't too long, but I make you feel a man. But love is blind and you soon will find you're just a boy again. Wish that I knew what I know now. When I was younger, I wish that I knew what I know now. When I was stronger.
Great. Always exciting to watch that video and think about those the process of exploring more about your future young adulthood and the years ahead. So the last bit of information that I'd like to share relates to two videos that I'd encourage you, students and parents alike, to spend some time watching in preparation for the early stages of the college search. The first is an interview done by Forbes magazine with Duke's Dean of Admission, Mr. Christoph Gutentag, and shares wonderful additional insight into how the selective decision-making process works. It's about 45 minutes in length and well worth the time. The second is a presentation shared by Malcolm Gladwell at a 2013 Google Zeitgeist conference and shares some compelling messages about elite institution cognitive disorder, as well as relative deprivation in action, two very fancy concepts discussed in his 2013 book, David and Goliath, Underdogs, Misfits, and the Art of Battling Giants. It's a wonderful presentation of some complex ideas, which, although imperfect and very highly focused, we hope will provide some additional food for thought as you consider the types of institutions you might pursue and the priorities and goals for your college search. There are also a tremendous number of wonderful books out there that either directly or indirectly support students and families in their preparation for the college admission journey, including Curious, The Desire to Know and Why Your Future Depends on It by Ian Leslie, and Excellent Sheep, The Miseducation of the American Elite and the Way to a Meaningful Life by William Dershowitz. And Where You Go Is Not Who You Will Be, an antidote to the college admission mania by well-known New York Times columnist Frank Bruni. I will send links to these videos as well as a reading list in our follow-up email to you and continue to share information about resources like these suggestions over the course of the next 2.5 years. So in conclusion tonight, this process will work. We hope it will not only work, but be an incredible time, again, in the life of your family, and certainly for each student in the life of your life. It unfolds gradually over time. We hope it will be an exciting, enjoyable period of your life. And we look forward to having a more formal connection with you over the course of the months and years ahead. We look forward to helping you explore a variety of prospective paths and helping you determine what fit might mean for you as you transition. Thank you so much for your attention tonight. We look forward to all of the work that is ahead and hope you have a wonderful evening. Thanks so much.